not everything can be known, but not everything is unknown. Did you know I was personally dragged into the whistleblowing about the sexual abuse, trafficking of vulnerable women at the nonprofit organization with a false accusation by the female central to my story? I had support from some famous people like
One man told me about being beaten by the police and left permanently disabled because of a woman's false allegation.
Hello, it's October 2025. Warfare. There are many different kinds of warfare. For example, there's hand-to-hand combat. There's combat with various types of weapons. There's even, for example, psychological warfare. There's warfare that revolves around wealth. For example, who has more money wins. And there's spiritual warfare, if you want to go in that direction. There's all sorts of warfare. But I'm noticing lately people are talking about one specific kind of warfare, which they've dubbed Lawfare. It's warfare using law, the legal system, the judicial system overall, which involves anywhere from, for example, police, the courts, and politics. And there's a warfare going on there, used against the people every day. For example, I've highlighted how, and I'm going to get really basic here and go right to the roots and then get into this lawfare in more depth. But every day there are countless of people who are wrongfully convicted. Wrongful convictions happen all the time. Most people convicted of anything are innocent. These cases set the foundation for the next step. When you have, for example, someone who has been targeted by someone or a group, and the law is being used against them with an agenda. And sometimes the people within those systems are part of that. They want someone, for example, silenced. And this happens all the time to people you've never heard of. And because these people you've never heard of have not been promoted, they haven't been sanctioned, for example, by mainstream and or alternative medias, and alternative media is the new mainstream media, no one really cares, because that is how people have been programmed. If someone hasn't been branded, or even if, look at a product or service that hasn't been branded, people don't care. People can't see reality, but that's a different topic. So we have people who have the legal system, the justice system overall, being used, for example, to destroy them. And we see this all around the world, not just in your country. But people take note and they talk to no end about, for example, famous people. And these people are promoted for a reason. People follow and support these people, and they could be perceived commoners to perceived elected officials who don't deserve or don't need help or support, for example, financial or anything else. And these people are seen from the perspective of the commoner that this person is being attacked because they're trying to help the greater good. They are going to benefit. The commoner is going to benefit from this person who's being attacked. The commoner can't see that there are plenty of other people who who are trying to, for example, fight for truth, justice, freedom for them. But once again, they haven't been sanctioned, branded, promoted, and people don't care. And I've said for many years, probably for over a decade now, that the very foundation as a descriptive tyranny comes from the countless of cases at the commoner level. And then we have the next step where those who are between the commoner level and, as a descriptive again, the elite level in between there, who have their lives destroyed, sometimes even taken from life. And it's these foundations that set the stage for these bigger tyrannies. And for those people who care about these fake heroes and, as a descriptive, famous people who are being attacked, with the weapon being the justice system, you have to think about these people are going through what they're going through because a precedent has been set at the lower levels. Without that precedent, bigger tyrannies, bigger injustices cannot happen. For example, this is just one example of different elements that I'm talking about here, is the case law. And that case law is relied upon. And we have case law from the lower courts all the way to the highest court, say the Supreme Courts. And these are the tools that are being used against people. And I've said before how laws can be deliberately misinterpreted, they can be manipulated, and even circumvented if the law, the justice system, is being used as a weapon against someone. And my story meets all those elements, plus many other elements that I've discussed over the years. Now, when you want to really evaluate, for example, a claim of injustice, look at all the elements of what injustice entails. I've made a list to make it convenient and easy for people, the commoner, to go through. And the more check marks you have on that list, the more likely that somebody is actually literally experiencing injustice. Injustice being a form of tyranny. What can be done to, almost said wake people up, I hate using that term, but what can be done to change things so people actually pay attention to reality? Nothing. This video, and the words I'm saying in this video, it's not going to change anything. Some people watching this video and listening to what I'm saying, and perhaps even going through the materials that I have beside me here in the overlays, who know, they know. So it's not benefiting anyone in that camp. And the people on the other camp, for example, don't care. They're not even probably watching this video, and if they are, they're just kind of maybe skipping through it or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Nothing can be done to change the direction that this civilization is headed. So why am I making this video, saying these things? Well, I'm sharing some insight and hopefully giving something to think about for people who are in the middle trying to figure things out. There are some people in the middle there wondering. But overall, the whole world, when you look at the whole world as a whole, no one really cares. And people think that they have this thing called free will and discernment. It's all illusions. You make your decisions, for example, to support someone because you have been programmed to. And then you have these echo chambers in social media groups and everything else that manipulate you. Now, if you're one of these people, I'm going to close off here, that doesn't pay attention to, for example, people like myself, you have to ask yourself why. And you can probably make up excuses and whatever, but really ask yourself why, and you're going to see how you've been manipulated to ignore real people who are actually truly fighting for truth, justice, freedom, overall tyranny, for example, and why you may be supporting, for example, people who don't deserve it. Once again, just things to think about. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Everything has to be scripted, fake. That way the narratives and the outcomes are controlled. Just remember, I was one man against many. Fighting a losing battle, but I still fought to the end.
That means press on. That means endure. That means God cannot fail, and you're not going to give up. That's not an option for a child of God. This means you are going to be remembered. Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me all the time, when is it going to get easier? When you die.